Thanks for dropping in for part 2 of my conversation with Patrick Sisk. I want to get right to the conversation, so I won't take up any more time other than to just say, remember to be looking forward to our Laugh at the Lake comedy night featuring Patrick Sisk at the Holback stage on November 18th. This will be a fun night with multiple comics and a special VIP reception in our courtyard to meet the performers after the show. Whew. Also, subscribe to Holback Stage Live so you don't miss our 13 Days of Halloween series beginning October 19th. This will feature readers sharing chapters from 13 Alabama Ghosts and Jeffrey by Katherine Tucker Wyndham. Now, enjoy this section of my conversation with Patrick as we continue to talk about his life and comedy career, how many people advised him against going down this path, and whether young me had a future as an NFL kicker or the face of Fazoli's restaurant. I mean, we kind of talked about how you started, why you took a break, what kind of brought you back into it. So you moved to Orlando for a job.
Yeah.
Not like to do comedy.
Yeah, not to do comedy. I am a registered behavioral technician. So I work with kids with autism. And my wife and I decided to move down to Orlando. Her father lives about an hour from Sarasota. And so I was like, okay, we'll move down to Florida, but we didn't know exactly where. And then we're like, happiest place on earth.
Why not?
Yeah. If you have Mickey Mouse in your backyard, your kids can never complain about being bored. Spoiler alert, they complain still about being bored. But yeah, so we moved down here, and we moved down there in the end of July of last year, and I didn't start doing comedy until April. So, I mean, for months it was just grinding, doing work, but still felt like something was missing, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And it was like, what do I need? Because, you move and you're like, man, fresh start. I'm going to be fulfilled and all this stuff. And it was just, it was still missing something. And I was like, what is it? And then all of a sudden I started doing comedy, and I was talking to a friend of mine today, and he was like, I haven't ever seen you this happy. He was like, I've known you for a couple of years now, and I haven't seen you this happy. And I was like, yeah, I really am happy. Like, it's not one of those, like, I have to fake it, because I'm really good at faking it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of funny people are.
Yeah.
And I think you, I'm sure, have felt that way at times.
I mean, we've all been through those times, those phases where it's just like, this is what people expect of me, so that's what I'm going to be.
Yeah.
But
like I've always been that funny guy, and it's like, oh, that's Patrick. He's a funny guy. And
I never thought that.
I didn't. Yeah. I wish I hadn't put you in my wedding. I should have picked someone else. But
too late.
I know. Ugh.
Pictures are already taken.
If I had a time machine, I would go back and do that. I would I wouldn't invest in Apple. I wouldn't stop any terrorist attack or kill baby Hitler. I would get you out of my wedding.
That's the decision.
R.I.P. LeBron. Like, he's not dead.
I respect the decision.
Yeah, I hope LeBron James is resting in peace tonight.
Probably.
Yeah. LeBron James, if you want to sponsor this podcast, we would love that.
Somebody needs to.
Yeah. We struck out with Uncle Bud's.
I'm still holding out hope. We could get the free peanuts. So but that's kind of like what is driving you to do comedy, like to make people laugh, to share that with people.
Yeah. I walk into a room, and I instantly want to bring joy wherever I go. Mm-hmm. That's just always been who I am. And like I said earlier, we live in a room that's just kind of full of pain, and I tell people sometimes when I'm hosting, I'm like, hey, I'm giving you permission just to laugh. Like your day might have sucked. Like your job might have just drained you of your life today. You and your wife have had an argument before you came here. Your kids might have just made you just lose your mind today. But now you're here, and now you have a chance to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Just sit back and laugh. I'm giving you permission.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we almost need that because we're like, oh, I don't know if I can laugh. I've had so much going on. But we, being able to bring laughter, being able to bring joy to a room where sometimes it can feel a little joyless. I did comedy right after one of the school shootings that happened, and it's like there is nothing there's nothing that I would rather not do than make jokes at that point. Like I don't want to get up in front of people and make people laugh because like I'm hurting for those parents. I'm hurting for our country. And I was like, man, but then it's like, okay, now get up and be funny.
Right.
And it's like, okay, how am I going to do that? And you can dwell on the sadness, or you can say, hey, let's bring joy to a situation wherever it is. Now don't forget about the situation, because in the 2 hours after the show, that situation's still going to be there. And then you kind of gotta get ready for it again. But the 2 hours that you're in the show, take a breather. Mm-hmm. Understand that, hey, you don't have to deal with it right now. And I think that's difficult a lot of times.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, that's the same thing we do here at the whole backstage. I mean, and we've talked about it in previous episodes. Again, it almost comes up when you're just talking about performance art. When you're talking about a group of people getting together and trying to bring something to an audience that maybe is funny, maybe it's you're trying to convey like a serious show, a story, or if it's just a musical performance, whatever. It's an opportunity for those people to just be in the theater.
Yeah.
The lights are focusing your attention on
Right.
what's going on the stage. That's all you have to really, think about right then. And
Right.
it's a chance to escape and
it's why
to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's why people like reading good books or watching a good movie or seeing a play or coming to comedy or going to a concert. You get to forget about things. And oh man, I hope Chris Pratt gets away from that dinosaur. Like for a little bit, you just get to worry about that.
And you're really worried that he will.
And you're like, oh, why can't the dinosaurs win? But I haven't seen the newest Jurassic Park. I've heard it's not good.
What?
Yeah. Have you seen it?
That's disappointing. No.
Yeah, I heard it focuses on insects.
I'm friends with Chris. I heard him talking about it a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
He said it was fine.
Was he on this podcast?
I heard him. Maybe we're not friends. I listened to a podcast he was on, and he was talking about it.
I was going to say, you should get him to sponsor this podcast. If
I don't know if he'd want to sponsor. He might be on it.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I just got to reach out.
You just haven't reached out yet.
No, I haven't. I should really put it out there. My schedule's kind of busy the next
I get
couple of
that.
months,
I get that.
It's just,
you got to make time for him.
Well, he's free. He just came off of terminal list.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been done, but like it's just coming out. And he's doing the press and stuff. So
it's not like he's going to make a Lego 3 movie.
He's I
don't know. Is there a Lego 3 movie coming out?
There may already be one.
Oh no, I think there's only 2.
I think they're going to do another one.
That sounds awful.
Another one of my friends, Will Arnett, was talking about that.
Oh yeah! Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, we catch up.
Man,
every now and then.
That is awesome.
It's okay. So what? I'm curious. When you step out and try to do something like this, any performance art, but like this is a career performance art that you can do. You have stages, you have opportunities to do this while you have another job, and like with a family and everything. You can take your opportunities where they present themselves.
Right.
And people are looking for those talents and that performance art. Has anybody in your life, either in passing or like somebody that you care about, told you, don't try a comedy?
So many people. So many people.
It's hard.
I can think of two who have shot me down. And I remember me and my buddy, Justin Thurman, he might sponsor this podcast. But
JT, come on, buddy.
But he was with me, and there was this girl in college, and I'll say her first name, and I think you'll remember who she is. Rebecca.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, I know.
Yeah, Rebecca Indian Dish.
Okay.
And that's what we'll call her.
Sure.
You know who I'm talking about. Absolutely, man.
RID.
But she, we were hanging out with her one day, and she's like, so what do you want to do when you get older? And I was like, I want to be a comedian. And she goes, why? And I said, because I want to. She said, well, you're not even funny.
Wow. Thanks for the heads up.
And I was like, okay. And Thurman and I were laughing about it because he was like, I remember thinking, you're going to throw this girl across the room. Because he was like, you tensed up, you got angry. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, but you held it together so well. And I was like, yeah. I said, I think I blacked out at that point. I wasn't drinking. It was just like, I was angry. And I was like,
Yeah.
So that's been one that actually stuck with me. Like, I still think about that. And then recently, when I can say that I became a professional comedian, I got paid for my first show, and I remember being all excited. And I was like, man, I got paid. And someone in my life, my wife went with me to the show. She was all excited for me. And someone else in my life, I won't say their name, but I was like, yeah, I got paid for the show. And they're like, oh, how much did you get paid? And I was like, $15. And they looked at me and they went, oh, that's it? And I was like,
I mean, but
and like
paid.
I felt like I had to apologize for being excited. And they're like, oh, well, I mean, you can make more money doing other things. And I was like, I'm not sure what that means, which felt really dirty. And now that I say it out loud, it makes me feel even dirtier. But
how long was your set?
That set was 10 minutes.
There you
go.
go.
So I was making over $1 a minute.
Yeah, and if who gets paid $75 an hour?
Yeah,
right.
I
mean, that's basically what that would be.
Yeah, I mean, I did a 15-minute set on last night, and got paid right at $100.
Mm-hmm. So
for 15 minutes of work, almost $100. Like that's not a bad little deal.
No.
And the thing is, though, and I think this is where I have issue with people like that, is it's not about the money for me. Like, don't get me wrong. I would love to be a stand-up comedian and not have to work and just travel and do comedy. I would also like to play in the NFL. But I mean, maybe minus like the CTE or CT, yeah, whatever it is. Like, I don't want that.
It's overrated.
But
I could have played in the NFL. I chose not to. I mean, that's
what would you have done in the NFL?
Stuff. I mean,
you would have been like the ball.
They have to have kickers.
You do look like an NFL kicker. Like, you have the body of an NFL kicker, which is...
What kind of bodies do they have?
Yours. You kind of look like a thumb. Yeah, that's the requirement. Do you look like a thumb? You're in.
Oh, this guy.
We haven't even seen him kick. I know, but look at him, and they're like, "Yeah, let's let him in."
He does look like he could kick.
Yeah, Sebastian Janikowski over here.
That's how you get in trouble.
What?
He looks like he could kick.
Yeah.
And then, we got him. We got him. Don't worry. We got the guy.
That's how Alabama got in so much trouble with their kickers for so long. Well, Nick Saban, if you want to sponsor this podcast.
I don't know.
You don't know? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So when people have told you, maybe not Rebecca Indian Dish a long time ago, but when people have like tried to dissuade you,
Yeah.
how do you filter that? Like, what's your? I mean, you kind of talked about how that one kind of messed with you a little bit, but how do you ultimately end up filtering that and turning it into, this is the direction I'm headed.
Yeah. I think for me, it's motivation. And which I think a lot of performers would say, oh, you don't, you find someone who doesn't believe in you and you go, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Watch.
And I mean, I think performers, I think athletes, I think there's so many people like that if you're told you can't do something, you instantly want to do it. Don't touch that red button, or don't touch the stove, and your kid immediately touches the stove, and you're like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Well, somebody says, well, you can't do that. Well, I absolutely want to do that, and I'm going to prove to you that I can do that, and I'm going to prove to you that I'm good at it. Like, I'm not just going to do it and just, halfway do it. I'm going to jump all the way in, and I'm going to prove to you that, A, I don't need your support. Because, I mean, for me, the people who don't believe in me, or the people who are like, oh, you're not funny, or this or that, I don't need your support anyways. I've got a great support team at home.
Yeah.
Brittany and my two kids. And my wife tells me a lot. Like I'll be about to go up, and she's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Oh, I'm about to go on stage, and she'll just send back, "I'm so proud of you," and that's one of the coolest things for me.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't need money. My wife's proud of me.
That means the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And now, don't get me wrong. Like, if I get $100, then great. I get $100.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'll take it home to her.
But yeah,
Here you go.
and hey, you want to go to Red Lobster? That was the fanciest restaurant I could think of off the top of my head.
Right then?
Yeah,
You live in Orlando.
I know. I know. There were so many. Well, that's for $100. That's about all you can afford right now. Like,
True.
Yeah. Like,
It doesn't go that far.
do you remember when Olive Garden used to be fancy?
Used to be?
Maybe it still is.
I haven't been in a while, but they've been kicking up their game with the endless breadsticks and
I just
salads
remember.
and stuff.
I remember as a kid, I would always get excited. It's like, we're going to go to Olive Garden tonight, and I remember thinking, man. I don't know at what point it changed that you were like, oh, Olive Garden.
Oh.
Yeah. It quickly.
I don't know. I never did go there that much. There was 4 kids in our family, so
Why didn't you go? You got endless breadsticks.
even back then, I thought that was a new thing.
No, that's a.
They just acted like it was a new
You
thing.
kind of look like a Fazoli's kid, anyways.
I think we had we did have a Fazoli's here.
Yeah, you look like a Fazoli's kid. If Fazoli's had a poster child, I think it would just be you shoving breadsticks in your mouth.
They could sponsor the podcast
I don't even think. Does Fazoli's still exist?
somewhere, surely, or is it like no? There's another name for that. Not Fazoli's, but I can't think of it.
Oh, okay.
Like the Italian.
Chuck E. Cheese.
That's it. It's just like Fazoli's, but it's something else. It's like maybe starts with an S. Spaghettis.
Sonic.
I don't know. Speaking of Brittany,
You said spaghettis.
I'm trying.
Like they would be a restaurant. Welcome to tacos.
I'm trying to throw it out.
What do
there
you serve here,
so
sir?
It triggers the memory.
What do you serve here, sir? Surprisingly, watermelon.
We do. We have a lot of watermelon. We go through your average,
Watermelon dishes?
side of ham, maybe a mac and cheese. Hold the cheese.
Did you say a side of ham?
Is that not how it's served? Is it just a slice?
I'll take the side of ham.
Oh, side of beef. I know I've heard that. Is it a side of bacon as well? Do you get a side of bacon? Bacon as a side.
Yeah.
Double bacon.
Double bacon watermelon sandwich.
Is that it? You've had that? Is the watermelon the bread or is it in the sandwich?
That's a great question.
That's like one of those psychological questions.
Yeah.
However you answer that depends on how you think about life or something.
Yeah. Anyways, what was your question?
I don't know. You brought up Brittany.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, how does she feel about this whole endeavor? Like, hey, I want to pursue being a comic now. But you've already said she's very supportive.
Yeah.
Helps you write jokes sometimes.
Yeah. She's incredible. She has. So my wife is a nurse. So automatically she has a very dark sense of humor.
They do.
Yeah, they do. Nurses and comedians, we all have dark senses of humor. One of my early jokes that didn't work when I would do the comedy scene right after my dad passed away, and it's a really dark joke, and I'm about to tell you. And it was simply this: knock knock.
Who's there?
Not my dad. And that was it. Yeah, it's a real dark joke. And comedians think that joke is funny. Oh. But like Aunt Susan in the audience does not find that funny. She's like, "Oh, heavens to Betsy." And
that young man.
God rest his father's soul, bless his heart. But so my wife has this dark sense of humor that I can be like, "Hey," and I'll throw a joke at her, and she's like, "That's really funny. What if you add this?" Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay. So she's super supportive. She helps me write sometimes, or I'll just throw out an idea, and I'm like, I feel like there's a joke here, and she'll kind of walk through it with me. But she does not like to come to my shows. And she's come to one of my shows, only one. I've been doing this since April, and I've probably done close to 30 shows, and she's come to one of them. And I was like, why don't you like to come? And I mean, she has a job, so she works nights, and we also have 2 kids, so she has to. We would have to find a babysitter, all that stuff. But she was like, look, I've heard all your jokes, and she was like, and I know that it'll bother you if I'm just sitting in the audience staring at you. And I was like, that's true. Because like, there's nothing worse than making a joke and someone just being like, you're like, okay, cool.
Like, I've seen your act over and over and over. It's fun.
Yeah. So when people are like, what does your wife think of you? My quick answer is, oh, my wife doesn't think I'm funny. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, she hates it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. And it gets real weird and real tense.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. They always apologize like it's their fault. Like, I'm so sorry. It's like, did you cause it?
She should laugh more.
Yeah. I've always wondered why we apologize at funerals. Like, it's not like it's not like you did it.
Family.
Like, I'm so sorry.
Oops.
Like, yeah, if you said "oops a daisy," like, how much more awkward would that be? Yeah, that's just a side note. Which also it brings me to another side note. Now I'm going on a tangent.
Two side notes become a whole road.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a country song. Thomas Rhett, if you want to sponsor this podcast,
we're waiting.
Anyways, it creeps me out at funerals when someone kisses the person in the casket. And I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No, I've just gotten. I have just now
gone to your first funeral.
I've just now gotten warmed up to like touching their hand.
Oh, see, I still can't do that because I'm always afraid like I'm going to touch their hand. They're going to go, "Wow, gotcha." It's like, why did Patrick punch Grandma? Well,
she scared him.
Yeah, but I've watched people like bend down and kiss the person, and I'm like, nope, that's how horror movies start. He's gonna
end.
Yeah, he's gonna bite your face, and then I'm gonna be like, nope. And like, I know my part in a horror movie, I'd be the funny fat guy who
they typically don't make it.
They either don't make it, or you think they're dead, and then they come back at the end, and they're like the hero. And I know my pain tolerance, and like, you stab me in the foot, and I'm done.
Done.
Like, I stub my toe, and I'm out for the day. So, like, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna call out of work. I can't do this.
So we were watching this show earlier, and this dude called into work, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm not gonna make it into work today. I'm sick. I'm not doing too good." And his boss immediately was like, "Oh, okay. So you're at the hospital?"
Yeah.
He was like, "No, I'm not at the hospital. I'm just not feeling too well."
That's a jump. Like,
Yeah.
I used to work at a place. I was a campus supervisor for this place at a children's home, and if people were sick, we required them, like the upper management required them to have a doctor's note. They're like, "Oh, did they get a doctor's note?" And I was like, people can be sick and not go to the doctor. Like,
Yeah.
And then I don't think like jobs sometimes understand that. It's like, oh,
Especially people who have to pay for it every time.
yeah. Like, I'm sorry that I don't have a bunch of money. Like, I can't. So I am 34 years old. The last time I had a family physician, like a normal doctor just for me, I was 19 years old and I lived at home.
Yeah, well,
I have accepted that, like, I could be dying.
nah.
And technically, the moment you're born, you're already
Aren't we
dying.
all?
Yeah. See, now we're getting philosophical, but so I could be gone before the November show, which I would want the show to be the Patrick Memorial Comedy Show at that point.
I would have to fill in.
Now you're kind of hoping for this, and that bothers me. You're hoping for my demise.
I'm not hoping as much as, well, never mind.
Rebecca Indian Dish. Yeah. I know she's listening right now.
She really shouldn't.
I don't want you to sponsor this podcast.
She probably hasn't found us yet.
Yeah, probably.
It's not our target demographic.
Surprisingly.
No, I don't care. Rebecca, you can listen. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be like that.
I meant to be like that.
What? So, talking about this show in November and all the opportunities you have in Florida, what's the value of performance opportunities? Whether it's an open mic or somebody inviting you to a showcase, to developing comedians, what's the value in that?
So open mics are, that's your practice. That's you getting on stage, having a mic in front of you, being able to tell jokes. And again, like I said earlier, a lot of times open mics, there's only comedians. So you have to gauge that a little differently because, okay, they're not going to laugh as much. They're not going to be quite there. So it's like, okay, great. But then you have a showcase. So like last night, they record the showcase. And when you record it, when you get to see it, you're playing it back, you're getting to hear the audience. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Like that's currency. Because now it's almost, and I'm a big sports guy, so I go back to a sports thing. It's like watching game film. Okay, this is where I messed up. This is where I could do better. You see how, and for me, I tend to rush through. Because one of the worst things you can do, and a lot of new comedians do this, and not even a lot of new comedians, just a lot of comedians, they'll rush through their jokes because I'll tell a joke and it doesn't get the laugh that I want it to. So I immediately start into the next joke. But you don't know where the punchline is. So I'm telling a joke and you're still, now it's clicked with you.
Yeah.
But I'm already starting the next joke.
Yeah.
And so it gets hard. So you've got to have that time where you just kind of stop and you tell the joke and then you're quiet. And so video helps that to say, okay, I talked a little too fast there, or I didn't deliver this line right. I didn't say it the way I wanted to. And so open mics are great. Showcases are better because showcases normally you're getting 10 plus minutes of mic time, where open mics, you're trying new material. Like once you get when you're a comedian, you have a thing called your tight five. And that's your 5 minutes that you could go up and I could tell my tight five blindfolded, which really isn't that impressive because I could still talk.
Right.
And so, I heard somebody say that the other day, and I was like, that's not like okay, cool. But like I know it like the back of my hand. I know where I could pick up. I know where I could drop off. I know how to say it. I know how to deliver it. But then once you have your type 5, you add 5 more to it. Or you build off some more jokes, and then you have 10 minutes. Then you build off more of it. You have 15. And so at this last open mic I just did all new stuff. Some of it hit really well, and I was like, great. Some of it kind of sucked, and it's like, okay, I got to work on that. And it's great because those mics help you decide what's really going to take off or what's really you got to work on. Maybe there's something there, or maybe there's not. Because sometimes you tell a joke and you're like, man, this is really funny, and it just still doesn't work. I've heard a lot of comedians have jokes like that where, like, I've seen one guy who just keeps trying to drill this one joke. And I'm just like, that's not funny. But
it's the definition of a dead horse. Stop beating it.
Yeah. So, but then you have those opportunities to do showcases, and now you can put it all together. So now you have your 10 to 15, 20 minutes, and you start to put it together, and that's when you film it, and you go, all right, here's my body of work. So then you take it, and then you send it out to people. And you're like, hey, this is my 15 minutes I did here. Maybe I can come host for you, or maybe I can have a feature, or maybe I can have a guest spot, or maybe I can be a headliner. And, headliner is 45 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. And so now you've got to work to get to that. So it's all about building off of each other. It's you start that if you're like using Lincoln logs, I don't know if that's still a thing, but I know you know what I'm talking about.
Sure they are.
Yeah. But you have to build a good frame and a good base. Until you build that base, you can't go to the top.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So you've got to have a good frame. You've got to have a good base. When building a house, you don't just go, man, this is going to be a killer front door. Done. Like, that would be a terrible house.
It's fine. It's not connected to anything.
Yeah,
but
like, it would be awful. So, but if you add the front door to a house that you've already put all the effort in and all this, now it's like, boom. And you're like, yeah, that front, I don't know why you'd be that excited for a front door. Now that I say that.
Thanks for listening, guys. And remember, we need your help to complete our digital media production studio at the Holdback Stage. If you've seen any of our YouTube videos, listened to this podcast, or follow our social media and have seen any of the clips we put out to promote our shows, that's the kind of content we would like to be able to share more of. Contact this show at holdbackstagelive@gmail.com for sponsorship opportunities. To help support the show as an individual, follow our socials link in the show description for access to PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. Just add the word podcast as a comment. Your generous support will help us achieve a professional permanent studio space from which to generate consistently engaging content. Thank you for your interest in this project. Keep coming back and stay kind.